Welcome to Horror Year, where every story is a journey into the unknown. If you're brave enough to face your darkest fears and uncover the most chilling tales, you've come to the right place. So, dim the lights, turn up the volume, and subscribe to Horror Year. Your journey into terror begins now. For Jenna, it was just another Friday night. She was left alone in their suburban house while her parents had taken off for a weekend trip. Having the house to herself and intending to binge-watch her favorite series, Jenna didn't mind. She observed a strange flash outside her window when the clock reached midnight. She initially believed it to be just a passing car, but the light persisted. Jenna, inquisitive, lifted the curtain and looked out. The sight of a figure across the street with a flashlight that flashed on and off in a slow, purposeful cadence made her heart skip a beat. She saw only the shadow of a person staring straight at her house, with no details discernible. After making an effort to get over her discomfort, Jenna went back to the living room and cranked up the TV. But the light outside kept flickering, and there was a slight tapping sound now. Soft, insistent, and getting louder by the second, it felt like someone was tapping on her door. She picked up her phone and considered calling the cops or not. However, the figure had vanished when she took another look out the window. Jenna smiled at herself for being so wound up, relieved. Attempting to enjoy her show, she reclined on her couch. After a few minutes, the tapping started up again, only louder and more persistent. When Jenna realized the sound was coming from within the house, her gut seized up in terror. Stepping onto the hall tiptoe, she followed the sound to the basement door. She went for the knob, her heart hammering in her chest. A blast of frigid air met Jenna when the door cracked open. With the exception of a tiny flickering light at the foot of the stairs, the basement was completely dark. Though every instinct told her to flee, she hesitated and then felt forced to take a step closer. The light grew stronger as she went down the stairs, revealing the dark shape of a man standing in the corner. His face was hidden, but Jenna could see the flashlight he was holding and how wildly it flickered. She parted her lips to yell, but nothing came out. The thing moved forward, eyes shining in the darkness and a hideous grin on its face. The last flicker of the flashlight was seen before the basement was completely darkened. When Jenna's scream finally came out, it reverberated throughout the deserted house, but nobody was home to hear it. Mark was always a light sleeper, so he was awake at midnight when he heard the front door click softly. He knew that nobody else had a key to the house, and his parents were out of town. He waited for any further sounds, and his pulse accelerated, but the house was dead silent. Mark grabbed the baseball bat he kept by his bedside and slid out of bed. His heart thumping in his chest, he tiptoed down the corridor. He saw it when he got to the living room. A gentle, pulsating light coming from the front entrance. He had never seen light like it. It was almost hypnotic, luring him in. Mark noticed the doorknob spinning slowly as he got closer, like someone was attempting to get inside. As he lifted the bat to defend himself, the door unexpectedly opened by itself. He was temporarily blinded as the light flickered and became brighter. As Mark's eyesight cleared, he noticed a tall, thin man with hollow eyes that emitted an unsettling green light standing in the doorway. The man remained silent, but Mark could feel his presence pressing inside, a pervasive sense of dread permeating the room. With a wave of his hand, the man's lights flickered erratically around the house. Mark staggered back, thoughts racing. He had to get away, but the figure's unwavering stare and the flashing lights seemed to be blocking every way out. The apparition spoke in a voice that was both far and close, like a whisper on the wind just as Mark was about to give up hope. "Mark, you shouldn't be alone yourself. Not this evening." With one final flicker of the lights, the man vanished, leaving Mark alone in the dark with only ragged gasps for air to breathe. Even after he bolted the door shut and retreated, he could always feel someone watching him. The lights in Mark's home flickered intermittently throughout the remainder of the night, and each time they did, he sensed the man's presence waiting for the next opportunity to spend time by himself. It was Emily's first quiet evening at home since moving into her new apartment, and she was loving it. She had some alone time to herself since her housemates had gone out for the evening. However, the lights in her apartment started to flicker as midnight approached. She thought it was just a power surge at first, but then she noticed that the lights were flickering in a pattern. One long flicker, two little flickers, and then darkness. Emily kept seeing the same pattern and couldn't escape the impression that it was a message of some kind. As she reached for her phone to text her roommates, the screen went black and only one word showed up: leave. Her heart raced with cold. Was it a joke? Had her phone been hacked? She heard a slight scraping sound at the window as the lights flickered once more. Since Emily's flat was on the third story, nobody could have been outside. The scratching became more desperate and louder. Emily stepped away from the window, her mind racing with possible explanations while her heart raced. Abruptly, all of the lights turned off, leaving the apartment entirely dark. Emily heard footsteps approaching her, slow and deliberate. The footfall persisted, halting almost outside her bedroom door. She caught her breath, hoping it was all in her head. The door creaked open, and Emily noticed a dark figure standing in the doorway in the gloomy hallway light. It was tall and thin, its face hidden by shadows, but she could feel its cold, emotionless eyes upon her. With a gesture of his hand, the figure turned on the lights, temporarily blinding her. She blinked, and the figure was gone, but now the word "leave" was written in drippy dark characters all over her wall. It was unnecessary to tell Emily twice. Taking her keys, she ran out of the flat, not pausing until she was well out of sight. The message had vanished and the lights were working normally when she and the cops arrived the following day. Emily, though, was aware of what she witnessed. That same week she moved out, unable to get rid of the notion that the warning had kept her safe from much worse. These tales serve as a helpful reminder that paranormal activity is occasionally more than simply our imagination. It's advisable to heed the warnings when unfamiliar persons emerge and the lights flicker before it's too late.